I am Jim Bunner, America's greatest journalist, and of course, your host. Okay, so sports has been big in the news. Now, ordinarily on this show, I don't do a lot with sports because, as I explained earlier in the show, I'm not a sports fanatic. Okay, I go to sports bars pretty regularly, but I mean, the extent of my knowledge of sports and how deep I'm able to get into sports is about like, well, let's see, would I rather eat pizza at the sports bar or would I rather eat mushrooms on hamburger mushrooms while I'm at the sports bar? Okay, do they have Sam Adams here or do I have to settle for Coors? Okay, that's about it with me and how deep I get into sports. I mean, I know who's winning. I know what's going on, but I don't know every little aspect of sports. So, naturally, the best guest to bring on today is none other than Central City Radio's very own Jeff Rich, who is joining me over the phone, and we're going to talk a little bit about sports going on in the news. Jeff, I appreciate you coming on today. It's fantastic to have you on in the booth.
Thanks for having me on, and let me tell you something. When I go into a sports bar, and I do go into a lot of sports bars, I am done ordering the chicken wings. Have you seen the price of chicken wings in the sports bars and in the restaurants lately? $16.50, $17, and a lot of these chicken wing places are shifting over to thighs.
Oh, Jiminy Christmas. You know what? I have not ordered chicken wings in forever, but the price of everything is going up too. I just went out to eat, and I think I paid like $26 before tip, just at a regular restaurant. That's not even at a sports bar. So, I had better make sure that I've got plenty of cash on hand before the Sun Devils game on Saturday.
Well, the Sun Devils games aren't too bad. Are you talking basketball or football?
Football. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The Sun Devils games, you got to pick and choose your places. Halftime is the absolute worst, but I'll tell you, there's a little hidden Chick-fil-A in the corner if you partake in the Chick-fil-A, and they're not going to be open past midnight because they don't open on Sunday, but you can get in and out of that line pretty quickly, and it's a fairly cashless facility, which kind of works to your disadvantage because they shove that iPad into your face, and they give you the option to tip 20, 28, or 35%.
Okay, you can watch Sun Devils games at Chick-fil-A?
No, there's a Chick-fil-A within Sun Devil Stadium, but I assume you're talking about going to a sports bar.
Okay, yeah, I was listening to what you're saying. I was like, now wait a second, they don't do that at Chick-fil-A. Okay, so Jeff, the big thing that's going on in the news regarding Arizona sports is this with Robert Sarver. I don't know what is going on in sports. I mean, first there was John Gruden, who got in trouble for a bunch of emails that he sent 11 years ago. Somebody, I guess, investigated the Washington football team all of a sudden, and then I guess they found emails from John Gruden. He got in trouble for whatever. Now Robert Sarver apparently created a toxic workplace environment. And I mean, some of this evidence that I've seen in some of these news stories, it looks like there's a bunch of former Suns employees who are just trying to get back at Robert Sarver about absolutely nothing. I mean, he's got so many people who are defending him in this. Am I going wrong on any of that?
There's a lot of unnamed sources that say things that really don't connect the dots to the people that go on record. And, if you're a journalist, you understand you've got to protect your sources in some places, but you've got to be able to name names sometimes, especially when the allegations are so horrific. Do we not live in a country where we're entitled to face our accusers? And it seems like just so many anonymous sources. So this Baxter Holmes, the guy that wrote the scathing article on ESPN, he's got to catch all the fire for what he printed, and he's got Sarver's wife coming at him, saying that a lot of these reports are lies. And the one guy's name that's primarily in the report is the estranged former head coach of the Suns, Earl Watson. There's a lot of things about ultimatums related to his agency, and then there's just the from different sources the repeated use of the mother of all racially derogatory slurs, and it's come out of Sarver's mouth so many times, and he's defended it and denied it. So, the league has taken it upon itself, among player pressure, to launch its own investigation. And then we'll see what kind of verdict they come with and what kind of sentence comes with that verdict, if any. And this is where you really toe the line between what you are able to do as an employer and what what is overreaching. And I think that we dangerously crawl into that territory, especially when we're talking about, really, when it comes down to it, nothing illegal, but certainly PR disasters.
Well, some of this, it sounds like he was just repeating something that somebody else had said. He wasn't actually, going up to any of the black players and calling them that word. I mean, it just, I don't know how this is a toxic workplace environment in most of these cases.
Well, he talks about the hairless twin brother of one-time superstar Blake Griffin. Taylor Griffin was his twin brother, and he didn't have any hair on his legs. And he asked the guy if he shaves his balls too. Wherever you work, do you want the chairman of the board coming into you in the shower and making physical remarks about your body? He's passing around pictures of his wife in a bikini. I would say it's inappropriate workplace behavior, but to which I would expect the retort if I were able to ask him. It's good to be the king, but we live in a world where so many things, and especially in sports, are employee driven, and the athletes want to take back everything from the front office. So if they could talk off the record or anonymously to these reporters, and they could be frank, I would not put it past a lot of these guys to stretch the truth to make management wear egg on its face.
All right. Now, the one report that I think would certainly constitute a hostile workplace environment was not that he said anything racist or sexist or whatever, but because apparently he pulled down somebody's pants in front of other employees. Do you think that's being stretched? The truth of that is being stretched?
I think it could be. I'm going to wait for the NBA's investigation, because obviously ESPN needs to not sell newspapers like it was in the old days, but they need to sell their clicks. And this story was teased and sold about 5 weeks in advance, before it finally came out on November 4th. So I think that there is some sensationalism in journalism, unfortunately, and they don't really care who they tear down. But then again, this could be a responsible report. I think that with the NBA investigating, Robert Sarver is 1/30th of the powers that be in the NBA. It's very much an owner's owned league. They own the association. They own all the teams within it. They own all of the contractors for all of the players and all of the employees as well. So I think that it comes down to how much power exists at the top in the NBA, and then you have Adam Silver, who's the commissioner of it all, but he works for these 30 guys, so he has no interest in throwing Sarver under the bus. So if they come across as something, and there is precedent here, there's Donald Sterling, the former owner of the Los Angeles and San Diego Clippers. He was banned for life from the league and forced to sell to Microsoft executive Steve Ballmer in 2014. And, that was because he was caught on tape. We don't have anything with Sarver on tape. We have all hearsay at this point. So let's see if if the ESPN report is confirmed by the investigation, or it leaves some things to be disputed. I don't think that it's time to put Robert Sarver's head on the chopping block, but if all of this is confirmed to be true, especially when it comes to the usage of the slur, what is true or what is reported to be true if those are two separate things, then there's smoke but no fire here. But the NBA is going to be forced to take action because of the racial makeup of the league, their push for diversity, especially their big push to promote their side product, the WNBA. So they have to be sensitive to the feelings of the minorities and and the protected classes in general, whether it's gay, female, or a racial makeup that makes you a minority.
All right. Well, I guess there's not really anything that we can do or say until the NFL has done its investigating and whatever. But I guess the people around Robert Sarver are welcoming the investigation, which I think looks good for him. But anyway, Jeff, speaking of putting somebody's head on the chopping block and speaking of pulling down somebody's pants, millions of Arizona Cardinals fans, I'm sure, absolutely cannot wait for the next game that the Cardinals play, because this is like the best season ever. And earlier in the show, I was talking about, throughout the history of the NFL, what determines whether a team goes to a Super Bowl or they win the Super Bowl. It's not necessarily who has the best record, but who is playing the best football. Now, I have not been watching the NFL this year. I'm not interested in watching this season. So I don't know if the Cardinals are really playing the best football in the league or if they've just been up against some easy teams. But I thought you might be able to shed a little bit more light on that subject.
Well, they haven't won anything just yet. Nobody wins anything in the NFL in the month of November. And, sometimes it is a house of cards. I have reason to believe that it isn't with the Arizona Cardinals. They do now have, again, the best record in the league with Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, who handed the Cardinals their first defeat on Thursday Night Football 12 days ago. Now they've got a second loss. So everybody in the league has two losses, essentially, except for the Arizona Cardinals. There were a lot of teams that lost over the weekend, including the Rams, who were taken down by a Titans team that the Cardinals embarrassed the opening week of the season, right after Labor Day. So the Cardinals are very legitimate, and this last win against the 49ers on the road against a division opponent, which means you play them 2 times a year, and there's a lot of familiarity between the teams. You don't have your star quarterback, Kyler Murray. You don't have DeAndre Hopkins, who was a big trade piece that they acquired a couple of seasons ago, and they've lost their prize pickup of this summer's free agency, losing J.J. Watt, maybe for the season, maybe not. But the Cardinals have not just played easy teams. The Cardinals have beaten some of the better teams in the league. And, really the only one that they didn't beat was the Green Bay Packers, who came into Arizona on a Thursday night and played one heck of a football game. So looking ahead to the next couple of weeks, they got the Carolina Panthers at home. Carolina's certainly been struggling. And then they go up to Seattle, and Seattle is not the team that they used to be, at least when they were winning playoff games and going to Super Bowls on a regular basis. So this Cardinals team could, they're definitely going to win more games than they lose this season. They're already 8-1. But I think that you could start making plans to see home games in the month of January here. And I believe that the Super Bowl is in New Orleans this year. Don't quote me on that, but wherever it is, look it up. And it's a possibility. The playoffs are always very not predictable. So, having the best team doesn't, like you said, Jim, get you to the Super Bowl. But I'm going to remind everybody of the only time that this Arizona Cardinals team has gone to the Super Bowl, and it was back in 2009. And that was a team that was 9-7 in the regular season. And in mid-December, they went up to Foxborough, and in the snow, they lost like 44-7 to the Patriots, and then they bounced back. They went to the Super Bowl, and New England got clipped at some point in the AFC playoffs. So, not only does your record not mean anything, but the results of the regular season don't mean anything when you cross over into the postseason in the month of January. But I do expect the Cardinals to be there.
All right, so optimistic but cautious. I think What I get out of what you just said, I think that's how the Cardinals fans ought to be right now.
I think they should be very excited about the depth, that it doesn't come down to one player. Like, for example, if Devin Booker gets hurt and can't go for the Phoenix Suns, you can eliminate all possibility of them winning an NBA championship. I would say that one guy on the Cardinals might be Kyler Murray because he's the quarterback, but they've been able to keep the boat afloat with a lot of key guys out against the 49ers last weekend, and I have to take that as a vote of confidence that they can keep doing it the rest of the way here.
All right, Jeff, before I let you go, remind all the listeners when they can catch your show and where they can catch you on social media.
All right, catch the show, Central City Radio's Facebook page. You can catch us on Sunday nights. We typically we were going at about 5:30 now with everybody else changing their clocks and the NFL schedule being off. We might go a little later in the evening, but you can keep up with me at Jeff Rich Talks on all platforms and get all archived footage of my shows at jeffrichtalks.com.
All right, Jeff, thanks a lot for coming on today and talking a little sports with us here on In the Booth.
Hey, I enjoyed it. Anytime, Jim.
All right, folks, we're going to continue within the booth right after this.